For most of human history, wolves were monsters in the dark. To a hunter-gatherer 30,000 years ago, these were apex predators with massive jaws, terrifying endurance, and eyes that worked far better in the night than yours ever could. Yet somehow, out of all the animals humans encountered, these predators became our closest companions. Today, 900 million dogs sleep in our beds, guard our homes, and help us navigate the world. No human tribe ever sat down and decided to invent a domestic pet. There was no master plan to create an animal that understands human gestures or plays fetch. Instead of humans conquering the wild, evidence suggests the wolf began its own transformation at the very edge of our firelight. To a wolf, a human camp was essentially a moving pile of free calories. Hunter-gatherers were messy eaters, leaving behind a trail of bones, scraps, and partially eaten carcasses. This created a behavioral filter. The hyper-aggressive wolves that approached too closely were speared. The most terrified ones stayed too far away to scavenge and starved. Only a few individuals, those born with slightly less fear and more curiosity, could get close enough to eat. Over generations, these calmer wolves survived better than their aggressive peers. Because they didn't have to risk injury hunting dangerous prey, their genetic predisposition for friendliness was passed down and reinforced. By simply adapting to survive on human leftovers, these wolves unknowingly triggered a biological chain reaction that would begin to reshape their physical traits. To see how behavior alone can change an animal's body, we have to look at an experiment started in 1959 by Soviet geneticist Dmitry Belyaev. Belyaev wanted to test the mechanics of domestication. Every generation, he selected only the tamest foxes for breeding. He didn't train them or teach them tricks. He simply isolated the personality trait of friendliness. Within decades, these foxes started wagging their tails, but they also developed floppy ears, shorter snouts, and patchy fur. This occurs because of neural crest cells. These are embryonic stem cells that determine how an animal develops. They are responsible for the adrenal glands, which control fear and aggression, but they also form the cartilage in the ears and the pigment in the fur. Because the same cells control both temperament and anatomy, selecting for a calmer animal automatically results in softer physical features. This biological package deal meant that as wolves became friendlier to humans, their physical blueprint began to rewrite itself. Thousands of years ago, humans began to notice these smaller, calmer proto-dogs hanging around the edges of their camps. While they were no longer as aggressive as wild wolves, they retained their superior senses. They could smell predators from miles away and hear movement in the brush that was silent to human ears. These animals effectively became living alarm systems. If a bear approached or a stranger moved through the woods at night, the proto-dogs reacted first, giving the human camp time to prepare. What began as a one-sided scavenging opportunity had turned into a pact where both species helped each other survive. As humans eventually transitioned to farming, dogs evolved again. They developed the genetic ability to digest starchy grains, a trait wild wolves lack, allowing them to stay by our side as our diets changed. They also changed emotionally. Dogs developed specific facial muscles, allowing them to make puppy dog eyes, a look humans are instinctively wired to respond to. This flowchart illustrates the chemical feedback loop known as the oxytocin loop. When a dog and a human look into each other's eyes, both brains release oxytocin, the same hormone involved in the bonding between a parent and a child. Dogs didn't just adapt their stomachs to our food. They evolved to connect directly with the human nervous system. This biological malleability came with a cost. Once humans began breeding dogs for specific looks, the results were often damaging. This vintage pug shows the compressed snout and facial structure that leads to the severe breathing and spinal problems seen in many modern breeds. Yet the core of this relationship is much older than modern breeding. In Germany, archaeologists found a 14,000-year-old grave containing a man, a woman, and a dog buried carefully beside them. The dog had been very sick as a puppy, meaning the humans had spent their own limited resources and time nursing it back to health. This wasn't about the animal's utility in a hunt, it was about a personal bond.
The connection between our species had no grand design. It was the result of evolution slowly turning fear into trust at the edge of a campfire.